You're listening to Airey Bros Radio. Be there or be square, because it's all killer, no filler.
My recruiting pool is probably the smallest recruiting pool in the country. I wasn't ready for all the meetings that head coaches have. They have a ton of meetings. They have meetings for meetings. A good coach is a person who can motivate. You know, you're not going to sacrifice your wrestling goals for your academic goals. I tell my guys all the time, the best wrestlers are the most coachable guys. We take a scientific approach to how we train, how we rest, how we recover, how we sleep, how we refuel. I am definitely taking more of that approach. You still have to grind, right? I don't want to give away too many of my secrets, all right? As the young kids say now, it just hits different. This is Joe Dubuque, and you are listening to Airey Bros Radio.
The most important question of the evening for you is going to be, is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Taylor ham every day. North Jersey guy through and through.
I told you, Rich. I told you.
Oh, we knew.
Yeah. We know you've been at Princeton for a little bit as an assistant coach prior to Coach Ayers getting the job at Stanford. What were your thoughts on being an assistant at Princeton? Were you good there? Were you looking to be a head coach somewhere else? Or did the fact that Coach Ayers left and you got to stay at Princeton and take the program over was just a little icing on the cake?
It's a little complex in regards to, like, obviously the goal for me was always to be a head coach. But in my mind, I wasn't going to just take a head coaching position anywhere. So it had to be the right situation. You know, I have a family, so quality of life was a big factor in where I was looking. And I always had those conversations with Chris. I told him, actually, after he promoted me to associate head coach, I told him I would never be an assistant anywhere else. You know, if I wasn't a head coach anywhere else, I would be an assistant as long as he wanted me. So I was good with not being a head coach. If the cards, you know, if it just wasn't in the cards for me, but I was always working and striving to be a head coach, because I just felt like if I always had that goal, I was always trying to, you know, just better myself and always trying to improve as a coach. So, you know, again, it was always the goal, but, you know, I'm not going to pat myself on the back. I mean, if I wanted to be a head coach, I could have been a head coach 8 years ago. But it was just, you know, the situation had to be right. I had to make sure that I could win there. I could have the resources to be successful. So obviously when Chris talked about, you know, going to Stanford, you know, obviously this would be a dream situation for me, and it wound up working out for me.
And what was it like for you when you got the news? Because I know it was kind of late summer and you guys probably had a lot of stuff in line for this season. Was it a lot of scrambling once you got the position to kind of get everything in order? Or was everything already in order?
It was a little bit of a scramble, just because I was announced on a Tuesday. I think it was like September 18th or 19th, something like that. And 3 days later, we had our biggest, you know, recruiting weekend coming up. So I now had to do not only my position, right, what I usually did for official visits, but I was also doing what Chris was doing. So me and my wife, we were up till, like, you know, 2:00 in the morning on like a Thursday night working on a Google Slides presentation that Chris usually did, but we needed to make some adjustments and things like that. So that was probably a little stressful, just probably the first 2 weeks of the job. You know, but I feel like I got my legs under me. And, you know, I've said this before, Chris was such a great mentor and allowed me to do so many things, you know, within my coaching responsibilities. So I just feel super confident that I could do this job at a very high level.
Now that you're at the helm, was there anything that you weren't prepared for, or maybe not prepared for, but didn't know was a requirement, or Any curveballs that have come at you so far?
I would say just knowing what everybody's doing, right? I think that's probably the biggest thing that I had to kind of wrap my head around, right? Because as an assistant, I, had my set of responsibilities. I had my lane. That's where I kind of stayed. And we all had our different responsibilities. So even though I knew sort of what Sean did, I didn't really know everything he did, right? And same thing with like when Nate Jackson was on the staff, like I didn't know what he did, even though he didn't have a ton of, office responsibilities. And the same thing with Chris, I didn't know every single thing that he kind of had his hands on. So, but Chris knew everything that I was doing, knew everything that Sean was doing. So that was probably the biggest thing that I had to kind of wrap my head around was knowing all the job responsibilities for each of the assistants.
And Coach, you mentioned, you knew 8 years ago that you could be a head coach, but you told Coach Ayers you were content in your role unless there was the right opportunity had come around. Had you been looking at all in those 8 years?
I guess the reason why I said that is because I actually got offered a head coaching job. So I wound up turning that down and staying at Princeton. So at that point, that's when I really knew I could be a head coach. I knew that, people have been, keeping an eye on me and seeing what I've been doing and appreciate the work I've been putting in. And so then at that point, I was like, all right, I know I can do it, but I really need to master my craft. I really need to strengthen all my weaknesses, try and do as much, professional development, talk to as many head coaches as I can, and get their insight and continue to, almost force Chris to tell me what my what my weaknesses are, where I need to get better. And I love Chris, and that was one thing he had a hard time with doing was telling me that something I wasn't doing great. He always told me I was doing a great job. I was like, hey, I love it, Chris, and I really appreciate that. But I need you to tell me. I need you to nitpick. I need you to tell me where I can be better in areas, and because again, that is my goal. I want to be a head coach. I want to lead a program. So yeah. I knew I can do it. I knew I wasn't ready though also at that time. It's like you got to know yourself, right? It's, the last thing I want to do is take on an opportunity that I'm not ready for, and it might be my last one. So, but this, I know I was completely ready. I earned it. I worked hard. So yeah, now I'm just focused on continuing to lead this program to new heights, get more national champs, get more All-Americans, and try and get a team trophy here.
Let's go.
Yeah. So you said that when you were the associate head coach, you kind of stayed in your lane and everyone kind of did their job, and you didn't get in their lane because everyone was doing their job. What has been the biggest learning curve for you so far as a head coach? Maybe not knowing that Chris did something. Has there been anything that's come up, or do you miss like having more time on the mat?
I will tell you, I'm probably wrestling more now as a head coach, just because we're down an assistant right now. I decided to kind of I'm gonna open up my position again in the spring. I think it was bad timing, and so I think so right now it's just me, Quincy, and Sean on the mat, and I'm the lightest guy. So if one of our lightweights needs somebody to roll with, I'm the guy. So I'm fine with that though. That's where I lived and breathed, and I love being on the mat. But I will say that I definitely do need time to do other things in regards to like fundraising and, calling alumni and making sure that we have our events set up coming up in the next couple of weeks. So I wasn't ready for all the meetings that head coaches have. They have a ton of meetings. They have meetings for meetings. So that was probably the one thing I didn't anticipate right off the bat. But I mean, again, it's part of the job, and I think the administration just wants to make sure that I'm good, and in regards to like I have everything I need. The organization is right. If I need any help, they're there for me. So I feel supported. I feel good. I wouldn't say there's anything that really, caught me off guard. Like I said, Chris allowed me to do a lot. And again, even though I did have my responsibilities, he let me do other things though. And same thing with Sean. Like I would tell Sean, hey, let me book some travel for, one of our away meets. I just want to, I want to get that process down. And because he was usually in charge of like booking travel and things like that. Same thing with Chris. Like I'd say, hey, can I sit in on an endowment meeting, like with the business office? I'd love to kind of see what that looks like and hear what you guys are talking about and kind of, figure out the language that you guys are speaking. So yeah, I wouldn't say I was caught off guard, but just like anything, there's new roles that I have to play, and there's a lot more things I have to oversee. So.
Yeah, talking about those meetings and the endowment meetings, that's what, guys like me, when growing up wrestling, I want to be a head coach. You don't think of stuff like that. You just, you think about the singles, the defense, all the stuff like that. How is that for you? Do you feel like a fish out of water in that stuff, or is it just, you're a winner wherever you're gonna go, so you're gonna win in that area? It just might take a little bit more time.
Oh yeah, no, I love that saying. Hell yeah, I'm gonna win. Like again, and I think that's not being scared to go into an area that you're not familiar with. And so like I've learned now to where like, hey, just ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. I have no problem with telling somebody I don't know what that is, but I want you to tell me. Like I need to figure out what you're talking about and what this is. So yeah, but like again, like I was familiar, right? I was familiar. I wasn't an expert in what our endowment is and what the spinoff is and what it pays for. So for me, yeah, the first couple of weeks meeting with the business office and knowing what our endowment covered resource wise, how much that endowment was spinning off for us. How much I have to raise on a yearly basis. I was actually eager to kind of figure that out, right? I mean, again, it's like just like anything, the unknown. I want to conquer it. I want to conquer the unknown. So for me, it's like whatever I don't know, I want to figure it out right away. And if I can't figure it out on my own, I'm going to find somebody to help me figure it out. So that's just kind of my mentality.
With that said, are you sleeping less these days?
Yes. No, and it's funny, man. It's almost like I aged like 10 years since getting this job because I am going to sleep at like 9:30 at night, and I was always kind of like a late bird. I go to bed at like 11:30, almost close to midnight. Now I am like shot. I'm like I am dead. I'm in bed 9:30. My wife is making fun of me. She's like, oh, we can't even watch. She's like, we can't even watch any shows. There's no good shows on, before 9 o'clock. So yeah. So I would say I'm getting more sleep though. So I'm like going to sleep at like 9:30 and waking up at 6. So I'm feeling refreshed and ready to rock and roll, which is good. So yeah.
Okay. You mentioned you actually out on the mat more right now because you're down a coach. Curious, what are you walking around at these days?
I haven't gotten on the scale lately. I would say I'm probably low 40s.
Okay.
Usually I fatten up in the summer. I have a nice summer. I probably indulge in too many IPAs, but but I also, and I'm not working out as much. I mean, I'm doing camps and things like that, but that's kind of like more like a leisure pace. Once I get in the season, when we're drilling every day and I'm wrestling, live multiple days a week, I mean, I just naturally I get down. So last year when I was working out with Glory like every day, and sometimes twice a day, the lowest I got, I think I was like 138, and it was probably the lowest I've been in probably 20 years. I felt great though. Actually, I felt and looked kind of good. I was like, oh man, I got my abs back. My wife was like, oh, you're a little thin now. Nice and lean. But I was like, it was almost like I was hurting more. It's like I almost needed more cushion on me now that I'm older. When I was hitting the mat, it would every spot would hurt. So, but yeah, I probably walk around, right now I'm probably like 43, 44. So I go with the 25 pounders. I go with 33. I went with our 49 pounder, a freshman the other day. And I was very delusional. I went a match with him and, he got the better of me. And I figured, you know what, 149 is probably too much for me at this age. But I stuck in there and I told him, I said, hey, he's like, man, you can hand fight. I was like, well, that's about all I could do. I was like, I wasn't hitting my knee against you too much.
You're like, I was a 2-time national champ and I wrestled in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Coach, you bring up Pat Glory, and we all know he was a national champ last year, and you were probably the guy that was spending the most time with him on the mat. What was that like for you to coach a national champ and to be with Pat for 4 years and to see him get that title?
It was pretty awesome. And to, go all the way through from when he was a high school kid coming to our camps, to the recruiting process, and, me telling him and Chris and Sean, telling him that, you come here, you could be a national champ. You're not going to sacrifice your wrestling goals for your academic goals. So that was something that I almost felt a responsibility to hold my end of the bargain to him. And so that's why, I told him, like, whatever you need, bud, I'm here for you. I can do, I can help you in a lot of ways. I just need you to trust me and believe in what I'm saying. And I hope you believe in yourself. And that was, I think that was a lot of the things for Pat, was, it was hard for him. He was a big 25 pounder and, he put a lot of effort into keeping his weight down and making weight. All I knew was, hey, I get this dude to the scale and he weighs 125 pounds. I'm good because he's going to, rip somebody's arms off when he gets off that scale. So for me, it was special. Obviously it was, my first national champ, doing it at a weight class where I won a national championship. I guess, I don't know whether it's true or not, but maybe in my eyes, it kind of validates me now as a coach, that hey, I can do this. I can help somebody achieve the greatest goal in college wrestling. So, and for Pat, again, like, we had a great relationship and we had our ups and downs, just like any athlete and coach. But I think really in the end, he believed in me, believed in what I was saying and what we were doing to help him reach that goal. So it was special, man. It really was. And it's funny because I was actually like way more emotional his junior year. I tell this story, like he goes into EIWAs and he winds up, almost getting teched by Vito. And what a lot of people didn't know was that he was coming off of COVID literally a week and a half before that. And the week prior to EIWAs, he had midterms. And at Princeton, midterms is no joke. It is like the toughest week So he basically got this this storm of just well, I guess, excuse my language, but a big shit storm, and it all came together at EIWAs. And the fact, so every match at the EIWA tournament, he gave up the first takedown. And Pat Glory hadn't given up a first takedown all year. So I was like, man, I hope he has enough juice, to get it through. And I'm thinking in the back of my head, obviously I was like, I never really doubted Pat, because you can't doubt that dude. But I was like, man, I hope Vito's feeling bad. I hope we can, kind of almost balance the scales out a little bit. And Vito was feeling great. He's in his home gym. It was just a bad culmination of things coming together in one event. And after that, he really, he was struggling mentally just to get over that, right? Any high level athlete goes through a match like that, you start to really doubt, man, am I this good? Like, what's going on? What am I doing wrong? Why is this happening? So, I kind of had to talk him off the ledge a little bit. And again, he was close. He was close to like friggin' quitting, throwing the towel in. And, I had to talk to him, and, I was like, hey, dude, like, let's just get out there. We get out to nationals, you're going to be feeling great. You're not going to be feeling like you did a week ago. You're going to be feeling great. And when he beat him in the finals, dude, I just erupted. It's just like I had just a ton of emotion that I just couldn't contain. I was just so proud of him, the way that he handled that whole 10-day period where you're almost feeling the lowest of lows and you're at the highest of the highs, making the national finals. So, and then like his senior year, I was like, after his first match at NCAAs, I was like, again, it sounds corny and cliche. When he pinned the kid from Oklahoma State with Kraft, I was like, I saw the look in his eyes. I was like, dude, he's beating everybody. There's not one guy, I don't care who it is, nobody's beating him. Nobody. And he wound up proving me right.
So you bring up the low, and then 10 days later have the highs of highs. Can you coach someone to that, or is it a little bit of you can coach it, but they have to have a lot of that fire in them, or is it you have to turn the fire back on?
I think it's a combination, right? I think a good coach is a person who can motivate, right? And I don't think you have to be, the most motivational person on the planet, but you got to assess, when your athlete needs you to pump them up, or build them up, and get their mind thinking off of one thing and getting them thinking to something else. And that's what good coaches do. So I didn't always have to do that for Pat. And, I don't know how much I did for him during that period. But I know I definitely had to put time into making sure he wasn't focusing on the wrong things, right? It's like, let's focus on the positive. Let's get out to, I don't even know where it was. Where was that? Detroit? I think it was Detroit. Let's get out to Detroit and just, once we get off that scale, that's where you're in your zone. That's where you want to be on the mat. You love competition. So again, it's knowing what your athlete needs and giving it to him.
Coach, you mentioned last year when he pinned the kid from Oklahoma State, you could see it in his eyes that he was beating everybody. And I think probably everybody in the arena and everybody at home watching on TV thought if Pat was going to win a national title, he was going to have to go through Spencer Lee. And then we all know how that went. So I was curious, how was that conversation after the semifinals, knowing that he wasn't wrestling Spencer and he had to wrestle kind of this wild card, but a very talented wrestler, where a lot of times an athlete, maybe not at the college level, but a high school kid can certainly be like, well, that kid just pinned the hardest kid in the tournament. I know I'm going to beat that kid. And then the same thing happens. What was that conversation like to keep him focused on the task at hand?
it was the thing I was most concerned with was the letdown of not wrestling Spencer Lee. So that's what I said. Hey, I go, wrestling Spencer Lee for a national championship was almost like the cherry on top, right? That's not the ice cream, right? That's not the whole thing. The goal is to win a national title, regardless of who's out there on the mat with you. So my thing was, hey, it is what it is, right? Like you can't get those matches back that you lost to Spencer Lee, or you were really looking forward to wrestling that guy. You can only wrestle who's in front of you. So that was my first thing I talked to him about, and then it was like, hey, now we got a game plan for this guy. And I talked to him. I said, hey, this guy's got some stuff. I go, we can't take this dude lightly. I go, we got to go out there with the same fire and intensity that if this kid was a 3-time national champ. So that was and Pat actually was fine. It was almost, I was more concerned than him thinking about that again. And I think Pat was like, hey, I would love to wrestle Spencer Lee for a national championship, but if he's not the guy, I don't care. I want to be a national champ, and that's priority number one. So he did a great job. It was almost like he was a pro. He was like, hey, here's what it is. Whoever's out there, I'm going to have to take him out to achieve my goal. And that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, that was, again, it was disappointing because we game planned for that guy for 3 years, 4 years, we game planned for that guy. And because that's the guy you want to get a game plan for, right? That dude's special. He did some great things, and as a competitor, that's who you want to wrestle. That's who you want to beat. You want to be the guy who beats that guy. So it was it was a quick conversation. Though it wasn't anything crazy.
And he was the first national champ since 1952, was it?
Yep. Bradley Glass.
And without being too cliche, I mean, how impactful was that for the Princeton Tiger program?
So, it's and I'm going to steal a line from Chris Ayers. He would always say it's proof of concept, right? So now, before 10 years ago, we were telling kids that we were going to get, we were going to produce national champions. We were going to win the Ivy League championship. We were going to do all these things at being, 2-13 and having 0 national qualifiers and not having an All-American in over 15 years. Now, fast forward to this past year, we've checked, I would say, majority of the boxes that we've talked about. We've got a national champ. We've got multiple All-Americans in one national tournament. We've won an Ivy League championship. We've gotten, Ivy League Wrestler of the Years, EIW, so on and so forth. So for us, it was the last piece of the puzzle that we needed to, again, I don't know whether it's validate to recruits that, hey, Princeton, you can come to Princeton, you can get the best education in the country and have all the resources and ability to win a national championship. I think that was the biggest thing that was holding recruits back, probably 7 or 8 years ago was, man, yeah, Princeton's a great school, but I want to be a national champ. And I just don't think they have what I need right now to be a national champ. And that's not true anymore. We have everything that a kid needs to at least be in the running to be a national champ. I can't guarantee, nobody can guarantee you being a national champ, right? All you can guarantee is that you've got all the resources and you can put a plan together to have that kid compete for a national championship.
Coach, you said before when you guys were recruiting Pat, your job was to make sure that his wrestling didn't suffer because of that high-class education there. How do you provide that Big Ten on the mat experience with the academics that all the wrestlers at Princeton have to deal with?
I mean, it's not really like a Big Ten thing, right? Like, good wrestling is good wrestling. Like there's, again, Oklahoma State, they weren't in the Big Ten and they were, they've got
I
don't
say
know, the
Big
most.
Ten because you went to school in the Big
Oh,
Ten.
yeah. Well, so no. I would say that was actually when I first came here. That was like my mentality was like, I need to get these guys tough. Like I'm going to get them tough. These Ivy League kids, these Princeton kids, I'm going to get them tough. We gotta do grind matches. We gotta do hand fighting matches, like everything like that. And yeah, that's probably what they needed at first. And then once we started to really get some high level athletes, just like anything, right? High level athletes, there's a balance between grinding and being smart and resting and recovery and things like that. So I would say, man, I've changed a lot as a coach when it comes to training. When I was young, again, it was like, hey, 45-minute go, let's go, just worry about finishing a high crotch, defending single leg, and, a stand up on bottom. And I think being here under Chris has opened my eyes to, a world of technique and an idea that rest and recovery is just as important as doing, aerodyne sprints and, strength and conditioning. So like we take a scientific approach to how we train, how we rest, how we recover, how we sleep, how we refuel. So like I am definitely taking more of that approach. I mean, you still have to grind, right? You still have to have that. I think it's just you gotta pick and choose when it's time to turn up the heat and when it's time to kind of chill out. And every coach and every team is different. It can't be a cookie cutter because every team, again, like I said, is different with different kids. So I think that's what makes the best coaches the best and makes them great is that they can adapt to their team. You can have a plan and you can go into that day having a plan, and then you look at your team and you're like, shit, this plan ain't going to be good today. we gotta pivot a little bit. We gotta adapt to what our guys are feeling, how our guys are looking, and that comes with experience. That comes with trusting yourself as a coach that you can pivot and you can kind of change up the plan on the fly and still have your team trust you. So yeah, I think again, Pat specifically, it's there was a lot of things that we had to clean up with his takedowns and his hand fighting, things like that. He was very coachable. I could show that guy two things on a Thursday, and he was trying them on a Friday night against the 7th ranked guy in the country and having no fear doing it. So I tell my guys all the time, the best wrestlers are the most coachable guys. And those are the guys who are not afraid to do things that they're uncomfortable doing technique they've never done before, and having trust. So, a lot has changed in my coaching style and philosophy over the years.
You mentioned kind of having like a holistic approach as far as the rest, the recovery, and the nutrition. What does that look like for the Princeton Tigers? What are you guys doing for your recovery? What is your nutrition protocol? Do you guys have a nutritionist? Do you have a certain kind of diet that you guys subscribe to?
Yeah, so I don't want to give away too many of my secrets. All right, so but now I think one thing that we tried or we implemented probably like 6 years ago is our Wednesdays are our off days, and within that Wednesday we have 20-minute massages from 10 o'clock till around 2 o'clock in the afternoon that our guys can sign up and get a massage as long as their class schedule allows them. And then at night when we usually practice, it's actually an hour-long yoga session. So they really love that. It's helped their flexibility, their recovery. their soreness levels are way down towards the end of the week, which is what we want, because that's going into the weekend, going into competition. And they've really bought into that. I think that's probably the most important thing is just the buy-in, right? Because a lot of guys are like, whoa, you're telling me I gotta take a day off in the middle of the week? Are you crazy? And we got to say, you got to trust us, right? You have to trust us. Sometimes less is more. So and then just with the nutrition piece, we've had a nutritionist, and we haven't used him a lot, just because we've been trying to figure out how to best use him. Because some nutritionists, they just can't get wrestlers, right? We just don't make any sense, right? They're like, we break all the rules and we're still competing somewhat at a high level. And they're like, no, you're not supposed to do this. No, you can't, drop this weight. And how did you not eat for a day? Even though those are all the wrong things to do. So for me this year, one of my things is I wanted to bring our nutritionist in, and I wanted to see what area can he get us, a little bit better, right? Give us a little bit of an advantage. And I thought at our post weigh-in, what our intake is post weigh-in is where he could probably make the biggest difference. I came from, eating sandwiches and subs and, bagels and things like that. And he's like, there's a shake that we can do that has a protein, has a carbohydrate, and it has an electrolyte in it. And it could be easy on the stomach. It could allow the guys to actually hydrate quicker and recover faster. I was like, well, that's what I want, let's do that. And our guys did it this weekend and they loved it. So I feel like just that is giving us a little bit of an advantage. Other ways we can utilize him is keeping our, upper weights big, right? Especially going throughout the season when you're, for heavyweight doing 5-6 workouts, in a week, they're going to naturally, just lose weight. So I wanted to make sure that my heavyweights were going and seeing our nutritionist, right? How many calories do we need to be putting in our bodies to be maintaining the weight we feel like we need to be successful. And same thing with like our lightweights. If they are cutting some weight, hey, how can our nutritionist get us to a weight, right, where it's a healthy weight, where we're walking around and we're not cutting yet, but it makes the cut a little bit easier, right? So I think those three areas is where I thought we made the biggest jump, and it helped us. We really saw, though, that Wednesday, we saw that come into play in the postseason. We were always, every publication comes out with like, a tournament, like what we're going to place at the tournament, right? Like, they would try and figure out the seeds and do those tournament projections. And every single time we would outplace those projections. So, and we really felt like it was because our guys were healthier at the end of the year and fresher at the end of the year. So that's definitely something that we've kept and will always keep. And we feel like that's going to help us be successful in the end.
Is that someone from within the athletic department or the university that's leading the yoga?
Yeah. Leading the yoga? No, that's outside of the university. Her name is Emily Boker. She's awesome. She's been with us, I want to say, for 6 years now. And she's kind of grown along with the program. So she's part of the team. Our guys love her. She's very she does the same thing as I do as a coach. She kind of feels out the room and kind of sees what they need and kind of alters the plan based on them. So it's I love that. And again, thinking outside of the box, that's what you got to do, right? And I think you look at these wrestlers now at the highest levels, they're absolute freak athletes. They're doing splits on the mat. They're, defending single legs, like again, in full splits, and their flexibility is unreal. So that's something that you can work on, right? And to help your ability of being the best wrestler.
Are you and the other coaches getting down on the mat with and getting in for some yoga too, or is that time to work on some other outside non-mat related coaching activities?
So I will say, like, that's the one night we can probably get home early. I would say the worst thing about coaching at Princeton is that we have to have practice at 4:45 every day. So I usually don't get home till 7:30. I live in South Jersey now, so I'm about
Attaboy.
35. Yeah, 35.
But it is pork
40.
roll.
No way, no. So this is funny. I've actually I've trained the bagel place around the corner from me. So they have pork roll, but I always say Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. And there was a time where a guy, like the guy, didn't know what I was talking about. I was like, I refuse to say pork roll. I was like, I'm not saying it. I was like, you better go get somebody else who knows what I'm talking about, because I'm not saying it. So but yeah, that's again, going back to just being home late at night. It's Wednesday is the one night or one day during the week that I can get home a little earlier, see the kids, see my wife. As much as I'd need probably yoga, without a doubt, I need it. It's the one night I get to go home a little early, so I sacrifice that for the family. I hope they're happy. All right.
Respect. Coach, talking about Princeton and the academic standard that is set forth through the institution, do you almost feel like that makes recruiting a little bit easier for you because it really narrows down the athletes that have the ability to get into school or can get into school?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easier because the kids that you are recruiting and that are interested in here value academics, right? The kids who don't value academics, they're not answering their phone, they're not really being responsive. So yeah, that's the easy part. I will say though, like, Ed, you got to hit on those kids, right? Because your pool is small, right? It's my recruiting pool is probably the smallest recruiting pool in the country. Probably mine and Stanford. So me and Ayers again are, Ayers thought he was going to go and get a bigger pool of kids, and not the truth. So yeah, it's easy in that respect, but it is hard because you got to really make sure that you're hitting on those individuals that you want and that can get in here. But and also, like, nowadays there's just smarter kids, man. Like there's the parents, majority of parents now are college educated. So, their kids are just naturally smarter. They're also putting a high emphasis on academics. So like, I will say, like, the pool is larger than probably it was 15 years ago. Because now also those super smart kids are actually really good wrestlers, where that probably wasn't the case 15 years ago. And even if a kid was super smart and really, really good, he was like, I'm not going to go to an Ivy League school because they're not very good. Like, I don't want to sacrifice my goal of being a national champ to go to a Princeton because they just don't have what I need to achieve that goal. So yeah, in one respect it's easier, but on another it's harder because you got to put in a lot of time, a lot of effort into these kids and try to get them to see that this place is special and they can do everything they want to do here.
Coach, you had the Princeton Open this weekend. What were the key takeaways? What did you think of the guys' performance, and what are you looking forward towards?
I thought our effort was awesome. Up and down the lineup, I really felt like our effort was where we wanted it to be. Just from a technical standpoint, we went over a lot of stuff today. Actually, we had a long practice, just going over a lot of areas that we saw that we were weak in as a coaching staff. And we have a super young team and a super almost like an inexperienced team. There's going to be a lot of new faces in the lineup that have never started before. Some might be freshmen, some might be juniors. So that excites me because it's almost like the energy is higher and the motivation is higher when you have a real shot to make the lineup and to be an All-American and to be a national qualifier. Where last year we had a great senior class, and I think we had 4 or 5 seniors who were starters. So a lot of the guys who were behind them, just because they're human, just weren't as motivated, right? Because they're like, I'm behind Pat Glory, like I'm not going to start, or I'm behind Quincy Monday. So as much as those guys did awesome for us, them graduating has actually opened the door and given a lot of opportunity for freshmen coming in, and then also guys who have bowed their time in the program for 2 or 3 years, and they're now ready to step in and try and be an All-American for us.
I know you don't want to single anyone out, but who do we need to keep an eye on this season?
This season, Nate Dugan and Luke Stout, those guys have been, in the rankings their whole career. I feel like Nate Dugan is going to have a breakout year. I think Luke Stout is on the verge of really exploding and being right into that, All-American national champ, conversation. He wasn't happy with one match at the Princeton Open, but he actually did a lot of little things differently and right. So there's a lot to build off of in that match. And then our freshmen, man, I'm excited for this freshman class. I think they got a lot of tenacity, and they got personality, which I like. That's sort of like I am. I want guys who are, have a personality out there, a little swagger. So yeah, freshman wise, Eli Rivera, Tyler Vasquez are going to be guys who are, I feel like are going to really show out a little bit this year. So those are just a couple of names, but there's a lot of guys who I'm excited to see step on the mat, and don the orange and black on a week-to-week basis.
Coach, talk about swagger. Curious, have you always had the impeccable style that you have as a associate head coach and a coach? Because I fancy myself as a bit of a fashionista when I need to be, and some of the outfits that you've donned in some of the matches and tournaments is pretty impeccable. So I'm curious, is that something that is because you're from Jersey? Is that come with you from high school, or is that something you've picked up along the way?
So I will say I always had like, I guess, a sense of style, right? I do have to give a lot of credit to my wife. My wife did a lot of my shopping, and she knows kind of my style. And so I definitely have to credit my wife with a lot of the outfits. I would say the one that caught everybody's eye was probably Vegas of 2021, where I had the floral shirt with like purple tight purple pants. I will say I was a little uncomfortable. I was out of my element a little bit, but I leaned into it, and I was like, you know what, screw it, let's do it. You know what, my wife packed this for me. I'm all in. We've got 2 guys in the finals. Let's roll with it. So I would say I didn't have the height of style that I am right now. And I will say there's definitely a doctor behind the Frankenstein. That is me. All right. So she's the mastermind.
Respect. You said you leaned into it in Vegas. I'm curious, in that leaning in, what was the reception from your own colleagues on the coaching staff, but then the other
yeah,
coaches at the tournament? Were they
they
sassing
were.
you a little bit? Are they giving you the
Yeah,
business?
yeah. I would say I got a couple of guys, who were like, "Oh man, that's a great shirt. Those are awesome pants." And then I had a lot of the other, just meatheads who were like, "Oh my God, how are you walking around like that?" and this and that. So here's the thing, man. I've been getting my chops busted my whole life, so I'm numb to it. You can't. I almost get to the point where I tell people, come on, you got to be a little bit more creative than that, right? It's like, don't grab the low hanging fruit. Be a little bit more unique in your insults if you're gonna come at me. But yeah, it's fun now. Like now again, like it's almost like, hey, let's get crazy, right? I think I wore something also after that, or maybe last year, I forget when it was. These man, it was almost like Burberry pants, and my wife like loved them, and they were super stretchy. Like I looked at the video, and I'm like, oh my God, how did I walk out of the house looking like that? So but again, it's like, hey man, I don't care. I have fun. My wife is actually the announcer for Princeton matches, and she has made it a habit to throw a joke out there in the middle of the match, right? In the middle of the match, making fun of me, either what I'm wearing, my height, just a bunch of different things, and makes the crowd chuckle. And I just shake my head and, continue on in my business of trying to, coach my guy to a win. So
is she a Jersey girl?
So she was a Jersey girl in a different life. She's from Indiana, but has the attitude and spunk of a North Jersey girl. So I think that's probably what attracted me to her. So yeah, we met out at Indiana back in 2005, and have been together ever since. She's been trying to shake me for a long time, but I'm pretty stubborn, so I won't let go.
Right on. Well, she dresses you well, so tell her the Airey Bros gave her props.
Will do.
Curious, Coach, what is your thoughts on the 3-point takedown and some of the new rules?
So I like it now. And I think the reason why I like it is that it makes a lot of matches still in reach, right? Where the 2-point takedown would always, especially the 2-point takedown with with like the 4-point back points. It's like that. If you get a takedown and back points, man, like you can't come back with just takedowns, right? Where now again, I think the 3-point takedown makes that third period comeback where you're down maybe 9-4. It makes it realistic, right? I think that's actually attainable. Where again, before 9-4 in the third period, man, like dude, you're gonna have to throw that guy on his back. Like you're gonna have to get 5 takedowns or something crazy. But what I didn't agree with was how they were packaging it, and packaging it as it's gonna create more action and stuff like that. Like just because you get one more point for a takedown isn't gonna make a guy try more takedowns if he's not a takedown guy, right? If he's not super aggressive on his feet. And the whole grow the sport thing, it's like, nobody, you're not going to attract this random guy who's just watching, a wrestling match and say, oh my God, like the score is 15-12. Like it's so much scoring. And I didn't get, I don't, maybe I'm, a skeptic in that regard. But just from an actual coach and wrestler, I think it is good that they did it, because it makes that third period comeback definitely attainable. So I do like that.
I know it's very, very early in the season, but have you caught yourself still yelling too? Or...
Yeah. Yep. I did it. I did it like 2 or 3 times. And somebody, they just, my guys would like look at me and laugh at me, like I'm like 2, and they're like, no, 3. And like, I was like, you got to take that. I don't give a shit. You got it.
Awesome.
So we have 4 questions that we ask all our guests at the end of every podcast. First one I got for you is, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes. It's iced coffee. I don't like hot drinks, and I think that is a product of cutting weight for a long time. So I needed everything ice cold, and I never drank coffee in college. Didn't drink coffee like my first, 2 or 3 years out of college. And then I was like, I need something, I'm getting older. I need something to pick me up. So I would do the old, it's basically like iced chocolate milk, with some coffee in it.
Where do you get it from? Do you make it yourself, or do you go somewhere to get it?
So I was a Dunkin' Donuts guy for a long, long time, and then I just now switched to Starbucks. I just it just, as the young kids say now, it just hits different, So
you did say it's like chocolate milk but with coffee. So how do you take your iced coffee?
So it's an iced Americano with I think 3 pumps of mocha syrup and skim milk. That's how I take it.
All right.
Right now, it's bad.
Have you tried the nitro at Starbucks yet?
No.
We'll
Is
get
that good? Should I try that?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want a little kick, that's gonna have a little bit more juice to it.
Okay. So I am a creature of habit. So I sometimes I find what I like and I stick to it, but I'll branch out. I'll try it.
Yeah, right on. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Joe Dubuque?
Daily rituals? Not really. It's almost like just like my daily routine of just like, shower and stuff like that. Like my wife makes fun of me because like it doesn't matter. I have to shower every single morning. I have to do it. If I don't do it, I can't. I won't wake up. It's part of my routine. It's almost like I get my body ready. Yeah, I don't really have like those type of routines. And I've been told I need to read more books. I'm not a book reader. I've had multiple people who I respect their opinion and advice, and they said I do need to read more books. So I do that. I probably get too much of my news and knowledge from Twitter, which is not good. I probably have to stop doing that. My wife makes fun of me too about that. So I gotta actually, open up a book and start, again, creating the best version of myself.
Right on. Cold shower, hot shower, a little bit of both?
No, it's gotta be hot. I can't do, I can only do a cold shower if I like, do a sauna or something like that. But in the morning, it's gotta be hot. Gotta warm up the body.
Right on.
Coach, I feel you with the shower. I am not a functioning human until I get my shower. So I feel you on that. What are you listening to right now? Podcasts, music, audiobooks? I know you brought up reading. You reading anything?
I'm not reading anything. I'm in the process of finding a book. I'm doing my research. But man, I feel so old. I'm listening to like AM radio. I'm listening to like Giants podcasts. Yeah, like I'm into like sports podcasts and stuff like that. I'll listen to wrestling podcasts. I like that. Especially during the season, just listening to like Flow Wrestling or Willie Sailor's podcast is good. Now I got to add your guys' podcast to my list. Got to get that. And then, but when I'm just listening to music, I just now, I finally have a paid subscription to Pandora. I had the free version from back in 2007. My guys would always make fun of me that the ads would pop up, and they were all from Bloomington, Indiana, because that's where I started it. So yeah, I mean, it's, 90s rap, or what else? Like, I like Rusted Root. I don't know, you guys Rusted Root
Oh,
fans?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like Rusted Root. I'm actually I'm like all over the place. I am the definition of a mix. Like, I can listen to everything from techno music to country to, again, 90s rap. Now these guys are getting me into like new rap and hip hop. So I got some guys. Kodak Black is like my guy now. I like Kodak Black. So, I'm trying to be, diversify my portfolio when it comes to music.
Heck yeah. So, Coach, this might not be up your alley, but we just had a New York Times bestselling author on yesterday who's recently, his newest book is about a Princeton graduate. It's called The American Martyr in Persia. And author's name is Reza Aslan. And it's about
Howard Baskerville.
Howard Baskerville, who was a like early 1900 Princeton grad from Nebraska. One of Woodrow Wilson was his mentor. He goes to Iran as a Christian missionary, and then ends up joining the fight during the Iranian Revolution to fight on the side of the Muslims. So again, I don't know if that's anything that's up your alley, but it is a Princeton grad. So
yeah, no, I think that intrigues me, just because, again, the Princeton history behind it. Definitely, if you could shoot me the name of that, like, that'd be awesome.
yeah,
Well,
for sure.
I suggest the audiobook.
Yeah, that's probably more up. That's more up my alley.
Yeah,
right.
mine too.
Yeah, definitely get an Audible subscription. It's a game changer. Coach, last one we have for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure or guilty pleasures?
Yeah, so like, I play video games. I'm 41 years old. I play video games. Not as much. Like, I'm more like, I more have video games on my phone. So I do, like, me and my son. We play Clash Royale. So he got me into that. I was into this like castle building game like a couple of years ago, but then I got like super frustrated because I tried to do it the right way and not pay for things, and I was just getting killed by everybody, and it was just super frustrating. But yeah, I would say that's probably like my one hobby. I love just sports, other sports. I'm a huge Giants fan. I'm a huge Yankees fan. I had season tickets to New York Giants for a while. I wasn't able to do it a lot now, but always try and get to a game. Same thing with the Yankees. I always try and get to like a Yankee game, like that. So just experiences, I think like me and my wife were always like, hey, we're going to give our kids experiences, try and do a lot of things, going up to, oh man, where's it? Lake George, going up there and spending time up there, and going, we went to like Disney and stuff like that. But we just, we always try to have adventures with our kids. Wasn't always focused on like buying them, these lavish things. It was like, hey, let's go somewhere for the weekend, and let's do this. So yeah, I kind of went on a tangent over there, but yeah, I mean, I have some guilty pleasures, and mostly mostly video games. My son is trying to turn me into a sneakerhead. I don't have the cash. I don't have the cash for me and him to be a sneakerhead. I told him that. I go, hey buddy, like, I only have enough for one, right? And you're more into this than I am. So yeah, so he's trying his best. He's got some swag. He's got some style. He takes after me a little bit. Not my wife. Not my wife.
Is he Nike exclusive sneakerhead, or does he have the Yeezys and some of the other brands?
Yeah, so he's Nike sneaker. He has he he doesn't have real Yeezys, but he's got the kind of knockoff Yeezy slides. So he's got those. He doesn't, I think we bought him uh other sneakers, but like if he's gonna actually go, there's like a buy, sell, and trade store in the mall near us, and it's all like he'll only get Nikes. So that's his style. But he's I will say he majority of the sneakers he buys is actually with his own money. So props to him. But there's every once in a while he asks for a nice loan for sneakers.
Coach, I got two more.
Yep.
You said you're in South Jersey now.
Yep.
Are you far enough in South Jersey that you're in Eagle country?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's wild, isn't it?
It's man, and it's funny because when I lived in North Jersey and I was in Indiana, whatever, I didn't even really care about the Eagles. I really hated the Cowboys more. But now that I've moved here, oh my God, I hate the Eagles. I actually hate all Philly sports. Everybody probably is gonna get mad at me, but man, like I was rooting for the Phillies to lose. I was rooting for the Eagles to lose. That's just how I was brought up. That's it. Like if the Giants aren't winning, I want everybody else to lose. But yeah, it's wild. I will say they are passionate. They are passionate, and I really do. I love their passion in regards to like, man, I walk around and it is Eagles, Phillies. Like I don't even think you see that up in North Jersey. Like you don't really see that much. Where yeah, it's they live it. They love the Eagles. They love their Philly sports, and props to them. And they're good too. They're good.
They're 8-1 right now, right?
Yep.
Oh, dang. Coach, last one. In your time in Bloomington, did you ever make it out to the little 500?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not. It was a big it was a big party weekend. Like that was like, a week long celebration like on campus. But I never actually got to the race. People, I mean, it's a for real thing. Like that thing is huge. And it was a big deal when I was out there, but no, I never got to it. Probably should have though.
All right. Yeah, I always have to ask. We were raised on the breaking away, so that's always whenever we have a Hoosier on, we try to see if they got to partake in that or went and swam in any of the rock quarries.
I did do that.
Yeah.
I did do that.
All right, cool.
Coach,
Sure.
thank you so much. You mentioned your tenacity and swagger, and I was a fan since your junior year in high school at the Meadowlands, and you beat the poor kid from Walcall Valley, I believe it was. you had that swagger and tenacity. I'll never forget. That was like the one match my dad was like, "You gotta come watch this. You gotta come see this kid. You gotta wrestle like him." So thank you for all the great matches you've given us throughout the years, and thanks for taking the time on your evening to talk to Airey Bros.
I appreciate it, guys. This was fun. Appreciate it. If you guys ever want to talk again, I'm down.
Awesome. Coach, good luck this season. We'll be following you. We'll be rooting for you. I wish I would have remembered to put my Princeton wrestling shirt on, but it's in my closet right now. But next time I'll have it on for you.
All good, man. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
Thanks. You too.
Take care.